like we obviously know that endurance running is mostly limited by our physiology. And so if we kind of delve into that, there's three main physiological factors which we can measure as scientists, that we know determine performance. So firstly, something called maximal oxygen uptake, which is the highest amount of oxygen that we can take into the body, transport through the vascular system to our working muscles, and then use that oxygen with carbohydrates and fats in order to produce energy. And so we know that maximal oxygen uptake is our kind of major determinant of endurance running performance. Like it's almost like a prerequisite to reaching the next level of performance. So we're always looking to try to improve that. Alongside that, and this particularly goes for marathon running and ultra endurance running, the higher percentage of that VO2 max that we can access for a given distance or duration, the better. So to kind of bring that to life a little bit, we know that when the male athletes that were attempting the sub 2 hour marathon were running for that duration, they're able to hold quite close to 90% of their VO2 max for the 2 hour duration. And if you compare that to a recreational runner who's also running for the same duration, they'd only be able to hold something around about 60%. And so the closer that we can get to our maximal for a long period of time, the better. However, those two factors, so our maximal oxygen uptake and the percentage of oxygen uptake that we can access for a given duration, they're mainly limited by our heart, so our kind of cardiovascular system, and what's going on at a kind of muscle level metabolically. So how we're kind of converting the oxygen into energy. But we've also got a third factor, which is known as running economy. And so sometimes people refer to this as kind of efficiency. But essentially, running economy is how much energy or oxygen that we're using at a submaximal intensity. And so the lower this value is, the better. So the less oxygen or energy that a runner's using at their marathon intensity, the better. The interesting thing about running economy compared to that other physiology is that it's influenced by a broader range of systems and factors in the body. So things like our running style or our biomechanics, things like our anthropometrics, so how long our legs are and how long our tendons are. Obviously, the footwear that we're wearing. So if we're wearing advanced footwear technology and these super shoes, we know that gives a benefit to economy, and our muscle fiber types as well. But the kind of interesting aspect for me as a strength and conditioning coach is we also know that running economy is heavily influenced by the neuromuscular system. And so more specifically, the amount of energy that a muscle fiber uses is dependent upon the types of fibers that are activated, how quickly they're changing length. If they change length too quickly, they use more energy. If they change length too much, again, they use more energy. And so we know that strength training and plyometrics are really strong stimuli to improve those aspects and to change the behavior of individual muscle fibers when the foot's in contact with the ground during running. So over like a relatively short period of time, so kind of like 2 to 3 months, we seem to get improvements in those neuromuscular characteristics, which then improves running economy by, it seems like the average is about 4% over a period of a few months, but it can range for anything from sort of 2 to 8%, which ends up being a really, really meaningful change in economy over quite a short period of time. And so that ends up conferring an improvement in performance usually. And so therefore runners get a little bit quicker or are using a little bit less energy and oxygen for the same running speed. So it was quite a long-winded explanation, but hopefully all of that makes sense in terms of just breaking down the physiology and the reason that strength training might work.